Hello and welcome to another video by myself, Chris from Sorare on a Budget. And tonight I'm looking at part 2 of the threshold players. This time I'm going to be focused around the midfielders. I've tried to do similar to the part 1 with the defenders, where I've kind of kept it under the sort of £50 range for the cards. A lot of them are actually in the mid-30s, to be perfectly honest, in terms of their average price. So another selection is going to be Challenger Europe cards, variety of the leagues. These prices are correct as of tonight, which is 1st of July at 9 p.m. If you're new to the channel, please press the subscribe button below. Just gives you, alerts when we're getting new videos uploaded. Since last night's video, there's been a whole bunch of new subscriptions, so thank you very much for joining the channel. If you haven't already as well, myself and Scotland Sorare have a podcast which is called A View from the Dugouts. You can find it on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everything like that. If you just search for A View from the Dugout, or you can go into our Twitter account for that, which is at AVFTD Pod, and you'll get all the details there. New episodes every Thursday. We do discuss quite a lot of kind of player tips and things like that on there. And also, if you are new to Sorare, you can join up on my link. It'll be in the description below, which is sorareonabudget.com. If you sign up there, you'll get your 10 free common cards to get you started, which will allow you to enter the academy leagues, the casual leagues, that kind of thing there. And when you buy 5 cards from the new card auctions, you'll get a free card from Sorare. So without further ado, we will look at some of the players. The star player, this is one of my own cards that's on the screen here as well. Similar to the first video where it was a Ross County player, we have another Ross County player here, Ross Callahan. I'll discuss him in a little bit because he is in the video. So, player number 1. I have my notes, my trusty notepad here. I'll crack through these in a similar fashion to we did in the defenders. So, first one, Bakary Namiga, defensive midfielder, plays for Altach in the Austrian league. Last 5 scorers you can see on the screen here, last 5 of 50, last 15 of 47, and a last 40, 47. So a fairly solid card there. Recent prices on, or recent sale prices, 28 quid has always been going for 0.031. Obviously, ETH, again, as I mentioned last night, it's been fluctuating, but you give or take, you're looking in the kind of 28 quid range, which I think is a really solid price. Market price in terms of what's up on what's been listed is sitting at 0.05, so there's quite a disparity in that, but you might want to either keep an eye on the auctions or keep an eye for somebody listing them, closer to that. Prices are going to creep up, as I mentioned in last night's video. They are definitely going to creep up. So the earlier you can get on board with, picking up your European players, the better. But yeah, sitting on the market around 45 quid, I would say even for 45 quid, it's a pretty good deal, to be perfectly honest, but that's me. As I've said, and I'll say it before we go any further, do your own research in terms of looking at these players, because at the end of the day, you're spending your money. I'm giving you some players to go and have a look at and some recommendations to go and have a wee, bit more of a dig on them and see what you can find. Last season, he played 13 of 14 games. He joined them in the January transfer window and helped them avoid relegation. He is 27 years of age. He got 2 goals in that time. However, one thing that does kind of slightly count against him is he does seem to love getting a yellow card. He had 7 yellow cards. 2 were in one game, which resulted in him getting a red. So he's actually going to carry a suspension to the start of the season. So don't expect him to be available in week 1. He is going to be suspended going into there. He is contracted till next summer, June 23. So decent start to the players there. The next one may be familiar to some Rangers fans. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for this player, but Daniel Candeias, he is a winger that plays for Alanyaspor in the Turkish league. So kind of plays either left or right wing. His last 5 scores, as you can see on the screen, was 55, last 15 of 47, and a last 40 of 41. So you could see towards the end of the season, obviously, he was having better form than his last 40 reflects. He played 35 of 38 games for them last season, 4 goals and 5 assists, contracted till next summer. His price on the market and his recent sale prices were both exactly the same, 0.05, so that's 45 quid. A little bit more expensive, but being a winger, you could either get 35 points as a standard score from him, or when he gets the decisives, you're going to be obviously talking, a lot more than that. So one worth having a wee look at there. He is a little bit older at 34 years of age. Does that mean he's going to get less game time this season? He's probably one of the better players there, so I would expect him to still be, in the lineup going forward. But one just definitely keep an eye on in terms of the age there. The next one is the captain for SV Red, and that's Marcel Zander. He is, again, a little bit more expensive, but he's a very solid player. Last 5 of 52, last 15, 53, and a last 40 of 46. Recent price on the market's been about 50 quid, 0.056. And the market price, the cheapest one on the market when I did the research, was £67. So a wee bit more expensive, but you could probably, again, you can negotiate, see what you can work out for him. As I say, he is the captain there. He's contracted to next summer, 29 years of age. Last season, he played 26 of the 32 games and he had 1 goal and 1 assist. So again, a very, very solid player and one definitely worth keeping an eye on. The next one we have, again, we're back to Turkey, and this is Erdogan Yeşilyurt. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it, but we'll go with that. He plays for Sivasspor in the Turkish league, as I mentioned. Right winger, 28 years of age there as well. So he's contracted to June 2025, as you can probably tell by the shirt in the picture here. Last 5 of 40, last 15 of 48, and a last 40 of 40. So again, being a winger, it's hit or miss, in terms of it. But looking at, a player that's playing quite regularly, he played 33 of 38 last season, 1 goal and 3 assists, 28 years of age. 33 quid was the recent sale prices and 41 quid was the market price. Again, I'm surprised by some of the prices being as low as they are just now. I mean, obviously, I know that ETH has dropped, but there is, there's some real value in amongst these players. It may well be a case that, people who aren't going to be playing with a playing goalkeeper are maybe selling off their rares and moving into the limited market or what have you, or it's just probably because the boom hasn't really started for the European cards yet. But that's some of these prices are really pretty solid for the what you're actually getting for your money, in terms of regular starters. And speaking of which, the next one, we're going to Scotland, and this one is Sean Goss, centre midfield, 26 years of age, plays for Motherwell. Last 5 of 40, last 15 of 46, and the last 40 also of 46. Recent sale price is 36 quid, market price 62. So again, a big disparity. The Scottish cards still don't have a huge amount of volume, but you will see them still come around in the auctions. I think that, as was mentioned yesterday, the auctions are kind of taking about 5-6 days to rotate through all the players now because there's so many of them. So that could be one to have a look at. Last season, he played 29 of 35 games. He signed kind of halfway through the August transfer window last summer. He got 1 goal, 4 assists. Motherwell could potentially still have some European utility as well. They're in the qualifiers for the Europa Conference League. So that starts in a couple of weeks' time, actually. But according to Sorare, at the moment, it says that the games won't be covered for the qualifiers, but that could obviously change in due course. Yeah, so I mentioned his price there as well. He's contracted to next summer as well. So a fairly safe pickup there. Next one, we're going back to SV Red in Austria, and this is Philip Palmer. Now, he's actually playing between left back and left midfield. But the good thing is, because he's listed as a midfielder, he doesn't get hammered for those lost points quite as much. He's just turned 24 years of age. Recent sale price is only 29 quid. Market price £49. And last 5, 45, last 15, 44, and last 40, 42. He is contracted through till next summer as well. Last season, 29 or 32 games, 1 goal and 4 assists. So definitely one that you keep an eye on. And if you can pick him up cheap enough, I mean, 30 quid for a card that's playing every week. And if you were, stuck or you were trying to, obviously, as I say, just going for the thresholds, getting the 45 to 50 points, along with, if you have got a playing goalkeeper, will see you good. So it's worth having a wee look at with those. The next one, we're going back to Scotland. We've got another 3 from Scotland out the last 4, actually, but it's just because of the value. We've got Greg Kelty here. He's a winger from St Mirren. He's also sometimes plays as an attacking midfielder, going by last season's numbers. I'm also seeing a YouTube video of him scoring a worldie, but it wasn't training, so it doesn't really make much difference. Last 5 of 48, last 15 of 44, and last 40 of 41. His, let's say, recent price 28 quid, market price 54. So as I mentioned with Sean Goss, the prices are that little bit higher when it comes to the market prices, just because there aren't as many of them. I had him, I sold him to finance getting a new striker in, because I had quite a few midfielders basically, but it's one that I would be quite happy to have sitting in my gallery and heading into the season there. Last year, he played 25 or 38 games, 2 goals and 4 assists. The reason he missed so many games was he had a knee injury in the early part of the season, but then he came back from that and basically played most of the games for the rest of the year. Contracted again till next summer. So, again, a fairly safe pickup there. Next one we've got, and this was the card that I had at the very beginning of the video, Ross Callaghan. Now, his market price is increased significantly. It's sitting about £67, but again, that's in line with the other players that I've mentioned there in terms of the Scottish ones with just not having a lot of volume. Recent sale prices is only 30 quid. Now, that is extremely low for a player like this. Now, it doesn't reflect it in these scores. Last 5 of 38, last 15 of 44, and last 40 of 41. He was playing more of a kind of central midfield role last season, especially towards the end of the season. Previous years, he has played slightly further forward as more attacking, kind of playing in that kind of number 10 role, if you want to call it that. He has goals in him. And previously, I think, well, it was actually Russ that mentioned it on the podcast on episode 14 of A View from the Dugout, that he previously was on the penalties. Now, Ross County ranked amongst the highest in terms of penalties won last season. And he, if he was to get onto those, you could be talking, a vastly different set of scores here. So for 30 quid, it's worth having. I actually paid a lot more than that for him. I probably paid similar in terms of ETH price, but it was back when it was about 2.5 times that. So I think I paid about the better part of 80 quid for him. And even at that, I still feel it's quite a comfortable price for actually I've paid for him. Now, last season, he played 35 of 38 games, 4 goals, 1 assist. He just signed a new deal in May, and that sees him through to June of 2024. So that is definitely one that I'm quite high on. As I mentioned, he is in my gallery. As you've seen from the start of the video, that is my card. So, yeah, I'm quite comfortable and quite confident that he's going to get, better scores this season. Just on the basis of, if he starts taking the penalties and the free kicks, things like that, you're going to get a much better result from that as well. The second last one I've got here is back in Austria, and it's Austria Klagenfurt's Christopher Svetko, centre midfielder, 25 years of age. Now, some of the scores for these recent games, the last 5 was after the split. And Klagenfurt were the weakest team in the top 6, and they finished 6th, but they had to play, the likes of Salzburg, Sturm Graz, and everything like that. So it was some harder games that they actually had. Last 5 of 33, last 15 of 39, and the last 40 of 44. However, as I mentioned, 32 quid for his price is, again, I've tried to keep them all around this kind of price bracket. The market price 45, so it is a wee bit higher, but again, keep an eye on the auctions, keep an eye for people listing what they've won and things like that in rewards. Last year, he played 31 of 32 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, and he's contracted to next summer. So he played all the games bar 1 last season, and I think that might have been a suspension if memory serves. So again, a fairly solid one in terms of trying to avoid getting a DNP, but maybe not so much so in terms of obviously looking at his recent scores, but I'm fairly confident that he's going to pick those scores up, especially since they've now, who was it? Patrick Greal, I think it was. They had one of their key players that plays a similar position has actually left the club, and he's going to have to take on a bigger role this season as well. So I would be quite happy, again, having that one in my lineups. And speaking of in my lineups, the last one I have is Ross McCrory. Now, he doesn't actually fit the criteria that I did my searches with. However, I've concluded him on the basis of, well, what I'll tell you. So, last 5, as you can see, was only 27. Reasons for that was he had a red card in that time. He then got injured in his comeback game after his suspension and got a concussion, missed the next game, and then he came on as a late sub in the final game. So his score only is sitting at 27 there. And that's going to deter people because some people won't look very deep on that. Last 15 to 39 and last 40 to 42. Now, those scores are particularly low. Under the previous Aberdeen manager, he was put into a centre-back role. He's more suited to being a kind of defensive midfielder. Has filled in at right back as well, but I would say he's more at home as a defensive midfielder. Now, his recent sale price is only 32 quid. I paid the better part of 100 quid for him back when the cards were coming out. And again, I'm still very comfortable with that because he's going to come good. I have no doubt of that. And, in my opinion, market price sitting at 70 quid, probably more in line with where I would expect it to be honest. But the auctions aren't reflecting that. They're reflecting it still being soft and sitting at the kind of 32 quid price range. I expect him to continue in his defensive midfield role. There was talk of him being the, named the new captain if their goalkeeper, is changed as expected. So it's one that I'm definitely going to, I'm going to keep in my gallery. I'm going to look at trying to use him where I can, especially where favourable fixtures are. But yeah, it's one that, as I say, it doesn't fit the criteria. You can see the scores are lower. The reason for that was he was playing in a different position. Doesn't quite fit the matrix because he wouldn't have got any clean sheet bonuses or anything like that, being a midfield card. But now that he's been playing under the new manager as a defensive midfielder more often than not, I think his scores are definitely going to pick up there. So that's all 10 players that I've got for you. The next video is going to be up on Saturday night, and that is going to be the forwards. And again, I'm going to try and find 10, probably be slightly more expensive, but that'll be part 3. So the only way to really get those notifications is to subscribe. You can switch notifications on. You don't have to, but if you've got the subscriptions there, they will come up in your feed on YouTube. If you have any ideas for upcoming videos beyond the threshold ones, give me a shout, drop in my DMs. I'm at Sorare on the Budget on Twitter. You can also, find me as part of the at AVFTD pod Twitter account. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, if you are new to Sorare and this video has kind of inspired you to go and have a look at maybe getting started, you can join on my link, which is in the description below, sorareonthebudget.com. So I won't keep you any longer. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you've missed part 1, you will find it in the archives on my channel here. And I will be back with the forwards in the next 24 hours or so. So without further ado, take care, guys, and I will speak to you all again soon.